to direct this picture with me, and also brought Hardy. That Hardy, Babe as we call him later, he just played a heavy part. It was mostly for chase. So that's the first time that I met Babe, but only for 2 or 3 days. And then I didn't see him for probably 2 or 3 years after.
Stan's path led him temporarily back to vaudeville, where his talents were again spotted, this time by comedy producer Hal Roach.
I went to this vaudeville house on Main Street to see he and his wife in a show, and I thought he was very funny, and I made a contract with him there. That was the first time that I ever saw him.
I made about 24 pictures for Hal Roach, and then I left and went with Joe Rock to Universal.
I think Stan was always frustrated as a solo comedian because I think he was searching for a comic identity, and I don't think he ever really found it. He was always a good technical comedian. He had a wonderfully elastic body and could do wonderful reactions, had a very expressive face and a very expressive body. But as far as knowing who he was as a comic personality, I don't think he ever found that as a solo performer.
Between the years 1917 and 1926, Stan made more than 70 one- and two-reel comedies. But the inconsistency of his screen personality failed to establish him in the public's affections. His most successful work relied on the parody of dramatic pictures, where he had a definite character on which to base his comedy. Real stardom eluded him.
I wasn't too successful as a comic. They told me my eyes were too blue to photograph. There was a kind excuse, you know, one of those things. And I didn't feel I was so hot myself, so I was very happy to get into some other end of the business.
When Stan returned to the Roach Studios in 1926, it was as a writer and a gag man. Aged 36, he'd decided to abandon his performing career.
The Hal Roach Studio, I think, was a creative oasis for people who wanted to make good comedy films. I've interviewed 60 people who worked there, and all of them speak of the place as being absolutely unlike any other studio.
See, the stationery said the Hal Roach Studio, and right below it said the lot of fun. And that's exactly what it was. Everybody was very high-keyed up and bouncing, you know, and I attribute it mostly to Stan.
The one thing that he did when we made pictures was great. You write a script for, you know, certain things are funny. You get on the stage and you rehearse a thing and it isn't funny. The best thing that Laurel could do in the pictures, there was always something that he could remember to change it into a thing that would be funny. As a gag man, he was as great as Chaplin, because Chaplin was using the same things in the same way that he was using them.
Oliver Hardy at that time, the late part of 1925 and early part of 1926, Oliver Hardy was a contract player at the Hal Roach Studios. He did a number of different roles. Sometimes he would be the villain, sometimes he would be a supporting comic. And there were a few films which Stan directed which featured Hardy in the cast. You would think that they would have done more films together than the 3 or 4 that they actually did collaborate on, but somehow they had a remarkable way of avoiding each other while they were both under contract at the Roach Studios.
Oliver "Babe" Hardy had already appeared in over 250 silent comedies.
Oliver Hardy was as good an actor as there was in the business. And I say, everything that he did, I mean, his character, he built that character himself. Nobody else built it, he built it. And no director had to tell him what to do. By the time they were ready to shoot the thing, he knew exactly how to do it himself and did it.
As Oliver Norval Hardy tells it, a leg of lamb brought them together.
I don't know if you recognize that voice, Mr. Laurel or Mr. Hardy. You should. At the time, he was production supervisor at the Hal Roach Studios, and later he worked on your pictures, now known the world over as the famous writer-director of Going My Way, Bells of St. Mary's, My Son John, many, many more great hits, your good friend, director Leo McCarey. Oh, look, Leo, how did a leg of lamb... sit down, Oliver, and we're going to get that, boy. How did a leg of lamb bring Laurel and Hardy together, eh?
Well, it seems that Babe was cooking a leg of lamb, and for some reason, he left his arm in the oven too long or something. And he got it so badly blistered that we had to cut down his part in the next picture, so we decided to put Stan in the picture, too, to bolster up the comedy.
Yeah.
And so when we saw the two of them on the screen together, we decided there's a real key. And from that time on, they really went places, all on account of Hardy had a little lamb.
I think Stan was a little reluctant because, after all, he had been through all that before. He had been a performer. He had had a share of success, but never had really been big time. And I'm not so sure that he wanted to get back into performing on a regular basis after finding that he really enjoyed being behind the scenes even more. So it may have taken some persuading, but of course, as we all know, eventually they were teamed together and things gradually grew.
From their first pairing in 1927, the team of Laurel and Hardy achieved an instant success with the public. Producing a new 20-minute comedy at the rate of 1 a month, their style quickly evolved and their characters seemed to emerge with a simplicity that spoke more of discovery than creation. In all of this, Stan Laurel's writing was as crucial as his performance. It was a team writing job, but he was most often the principal writer. For both Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, stardom had come late in their careers and, ironically, at a point when the cinema was about to undergo the traumatic change over to sound.
I made a deal with the Victor Company to do the sound at my